Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Today I am bringing you my April wrap up. I read 8 books in the month of April. I'm okay with that. Like, a lot of them were physical books, and I've been reading a lot more physical books since I've been home and quarantine, and I really haven't been able to focus on a lot of audiobooks. I don't know. The mind does crazy things. But as always, I like to start from what I read at the beginning of the month and then finish out through the end of the month. I don't do it from 2 stars to 3 stars to 4 stars to 5 stars. But I will say, I had a really good reading month this month. I had 1 2-star book, 1 3-star book, and then the rest were 4s and 5s. I think that's pretty decent. Okay, but let's kick it off at the beginning of the month. I started off with One Final Vinyl. This one is by Savvy. She is an author-tuber, booktuber, and I love her, man. I love her channel. I always watch it. She doesn't just do booktuber, author-tuber stuff. She does a lot of anti-MLM stuff. Just so you know, I know in the book community, it's like, man, love, man. No. MLM in this case stands for multi-level marketing. She just posts a lot of videos about being against multi-level marketing. Super interesting stuff. You should check out her channel, so I'll link it below. This book, One Final Vinyl, is about this girl that goes on this road trip with this older woman. I think she's about 80. This older woman has dementia. She decides that she's gonna take her back to her nursing home, but then the nursing home ends up being like 2 or 3 hours away or something, and she was like, oh, okay, I guess that's how far we're driving. I ended up giving this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I read it. It held my attention. I thought a lot of things were cute in it. The biggest thing that I had a problem with was that, this older woman shows up on her doorstep and she's like, okay, I'll take you home. And when she finds out that it's like 2 to 3 hours away, she just starts driving. Like, I feel like in anyone's mind, you would have thought to call the place ahead of time to just be like, hey, this woman with dementia showed up. What should I do? I mean, I think anybody would have called, and that was a glaring thing that I just was having an issue with. But the story itself was cute. Like, I like the character work. I like the friendship that they had between the two of them, and it was a fun read, so I feel like it deserved the 3 stars. It was just that one problem that really knocked it down a peg for me. Next, I went on to Dragon Republic by R.F. Kuang. This was the sequel to The Poppy War. I think it's the second in a trilogy. I think it's going to be a trilogy. And I will say that I did give this one 4 stars because it was well written. It was a journey. I didn't enjoy it as much as The Poppy War. I think probably like enjoyment value, maybe like 3 to 3.5 stars, but it was still really well written. And I felt like I couldn't just give it 3 stars because I wasn't crazy about it, because I still want to read the next one. I still want to see where the story goes. So maybe it's like a 3.5 rounded up. I'm not gonna give a lot of backstory in this one just because it is a sequel and I don't want to spoil anything, but you are following Rin's journey. If you're looking for a big epic journey to get into, I recommend that you try The Poppy War. It is a really decent book, and it is an adult book too. I usually go for the YA. This one's an adult book that takes you on a journey. So I am planning on reading the 3rd one. Then I went on to Open Book by Jessica Simpson. And I gave this one 5 stars. I gave a Jessica Simpson book 5 stars. Dude, I loved it. Like, full disclosure, back in this time period of the blonde female pop singers, I was more of a Britney, Christina fan. And I really didn't like Jessica Simpson. Like, it wasn't that I didn't like her. It was just, I don't know. I just don't like her music. Doesn't speak to me. However, I still wanted to read the book because I wanted to see, if there was some gossip and some juicy bits in it, and there were. But the thing that I really liked about this book is that I felt like I really got to know who she is. She's religious. She lets her faith really guide a lot of her decisions, which may sound strange to you because you know that she got divorced. It was a very public divorce at that time. But I felt like just going through her journey from when she started as a kid to where she is now, I felt like I got to know a lot about her, and by the end of the book, I was just really rooting for her happiness. And I also didn't feel that she held anything back. Like, she was more than willing to admit when something was her fault, or when she screwed up, or when she should have tried harder, and I really respected that. I felt like I got to know more about her family, about things in her past that kind of colored her life decisions going forward. It was super interesting, and I consider Jessica Simpson to be somebody that is just not at all like me. I'm I am not religious. I am not a singer. I don't put a lot of weight on family decisions over mine. Like, I consider myself to be independent. So it was really cool to read a book and feel so strongly about somebody that's clearly so much different than I am. And I felt like that really deserved the 5 stars from me. Then I went on to do my first reread of The Hunger Games. I read this one years ago. I clearly remember the story because I've seen the movie a billion times, okay? I love the series. It's great. And on my first read through, I loved it just as much, and I felt like I was seeing things that I hadn't seen before, and I'm still madly in love with Peeta, and I felt like I just fell even more in love with him this time around. The reason that I'm rereading The Hunger Games is because the prequel comes out this year, the story about President Snow. And Connor at Connor Stompanato, which that's a great last name, isn't it? Like, that is your last name, right? That's just like an oomph last name, Connor Stompanato. He is hosting a read-along of the first 3 books, and I was like, this will be fun. So we've all just been like a part of a chat and Twitter and reading the books and then just trying to write about them. And some of these people that are in the group chat haven't read The Hunger Games before, so it's kind of cool to see what they think their first read through. I know where I stand. I know who I love. Connor, I still don't understand how you're Team Gale. Like, dude, I tried to see your point of view. I don't, man. Like, I am all about some Peeta. I don't get where you're coming from, but it's okay. Next, I went on to my book that we chose for book club, which was The Kingdom by Jess Rothenberg, and I love this one. I thought this was great. It just wasn't what I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't like robotic Disney princesses. That's what you got in here. Princesses that were made, that were created to live in this place, which I just associate as Disney because people can go, like all these tourists can go and meet their princesses and take pictures and see them in their habitats, and it's just some wonderful thing. But these are like the real princesses, not like, you know, Belle, Cinderella, Snow White. Okay, you know how you get actors to portray those princesses? These are like the real deal. Like, that robot has been the same robot forever. Like, it's just, it's really cool. The actual driving plotline in this, instead of just being robotic Disney princesses, is that something's kind of happening to what they call hybrids. Some of these animals that are in the park, like they have a woolly mammoth, you know, things from a long time ago that they somehow manipulated with DNA and robotic whatever to create in this park. They're getting a little sick, and they kind of snap when they get sick and become aggressive. So they're kind of wondering if maybe the same thing will happen to the princesses, which I'm just gonna leave it at that. Like, doesn't that sound super interesting? I thought this one was great. The only reason that I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 stars is because one of the ending things that the main character was like so shocked and appalled about, I didn't really get why it was so shocking and appalling. I don't know. From what I understand, this is a standalone. I think it can go on to another book and maybe just get further into that world and make me see why it was so terrible. That's just my thought. I hope there's another one. But I will say, out of book club, it was just me and Katie that loved it, and the rest were kind of like, all right, okay, that's like life story of book club. Usually if Katie and Elise like something, nobody else does. But you know what? This one comes Elise approved. I think I would probably read this again in the future. Then I went on to Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, and it was cute. It was. I believe that's an adult book. Maybe it's YA. I don't really know. I guess it's more YA. Whatever. Okay, these 2 kids, and I say kids because they're kids in high school, are in charge of their family's social media accounts for their business. Like, isn't that just wrong? Like, why would you put a 16, 17-year-old in charge of social media for a business? I don't know. I don't think that's a smart choice, but whatever. It was a cute story, so it was fine. But it was about grilled cheeses, all right? So like one grilled cheese company, the other grilled cheese company, and it was cute. So they get in this battle over Twitter, and then of course, because it's a battle and because it's a boy and a girl and you know it's a romance, you know they're gonna fall in love, and it was a cute story. So I would recommend it if you need like a light, fluffy read. I ended up giving that one 4 stars. Then I went on to Deep Light by Frances Hardinge. I'm not exactly sure how to say that last name. And this is just a case of a book that was not for me. I read the entire thing and I did follow the story and I can tell you what it's about, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't speak to me. Let me see if I can wrap this up in like a 1 or 2 sentence synopsis. Okay, so in this world that is not like ours. They believe in gods and goddesses, but these gods and goddesses like live in the sea, and they, at this point in time, they are dead. Like, these gods and goddesses died, and they have what's called godware. That's when people are going out in the ocean and they're finding like body parts of gods. Like, and I'm not kidding, like, that's the story. Godware is like hacked off pieces of gods. I don't know. It's not for me. Okay, but the story was compelling because they end up finding a piece of a god's heart, which starts warping and twisting the characters in the story. I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna try to explain it any further than that. All right, so the premise, like, it does sound interesting, and I think that a lot of people honestly will pick up this book and love it because it's creative. I haven't read something like it before. It was just, I got to the end and I was like, this just, enjoyment value, I just didn't like it. Like, I ended up giving it 2 stars. However, with that 2 stars, I will say that it's a well-written book. It has character work in there, it's got world building, it's got different things that I haven't read before. Like, I can take a step back and see that this is actually a good book. I just didn't like it. And the last book that I read in April was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson, and I loved it. I ended up giving it 5 stars. I thought it was so much fun. Trigger warning for those of you that are like me, I was really pleased that somebody gave me this heads up before I started reading this book. So if you are not okay with a pet death does happen in this book. I hate when pets die. However, I read the entire thing and I gave it 5 stars. So, you know, it wasn't like a gory death or anything like that. So if that's something that would hold you back from reading this book, think of me, think of how much I hate pets dying, and I gave it 5 stars. Like, I really enjoyed the mystery. I felt like it had twists and turns that I didn't see coming. I would suspect somebody of this murder, and then I'd be like, wait, no, how about this person over here? And I felt like she was doing the same jumping. Oh, I didn't even tell you the premise. The premise is that in this girl's town about 5 years ago, there was a murder that took place. However, the person that was eventually convicted of it and ended up committing suicide, she doesn't believe he did it, and she creates her capstone project to go ahead and prove that he didn't do it. Side note, do 12th graders actually do capstone projects? Because I didn't do a capstone project until my final year in grad school. Like, I don't think I could have handled a capstone project in 12th grade. Okay, that's just a side note. But anyway, it's told as primarily as a story, but you're also getting her notes from her capstone project. I think there were some pictures in there. You're also getting transcripts of phone calls and text conversations too. So it's just like a bunch of stuff put together. So you're trying to figure out the case as she's figuring it out. Like, I was so into it. I highly recommend that book. Okay, so that is all the books that I read for April. As you see, I had a bunch of 5 stars in there. I mean, granted, one was Hunger Games, and I knew I was gonna give that one 5 stars anyway, because I've read it before and I loved it, but I didn't know about all the others. So I think April was a pretty damn good reading month, and that's all I've got for you. So thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks. I will catch you next time, guys. Bye.